Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, February 26th, 2026. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Joined, as always, on Thursdays by Garrick, Hodge, and Mark Porter. Got a great show for you today. Have we unearthed the next Tyreek Hill? You'll need to stick around to find out. Garrick is going to let you know which prospects Ohio State could be drilling down on for the class of 2027 in the spring. One of them will be our featured video today, and it is Eric McFarland out of IMG, who is an interesting prospect. I'll just say it like that. I'll also say he makes for a good highlight, kids. So you're going to want to stick around today for some real highlights. We've also got some other stuff to discuss, but we're going to start with the NFL Combine, just kind of review how our guys are doing there. Yet, if you want to watch the Combine's on-field testing, that starts today, Thursday, at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Linebackers and offensive linemen will work out today, or linebackers and defensive linemen. I can't remember exactly.
I think it's defensive linemen.
Is it defensive linemen? That makes sense. Yeah, I think offensive linemen is actually the Sunday. So they'll do every day a different position groups will go. But today you'll get to see whatever we'll get out of Arvel Reese and Sonny Styles. Oh, excuse me, Vel Reese and Sonny Styles. Arvel announced to the crowd that he wants now to be called Vel Reese. So bring the noise.
From the Ville.
Vel from the Ville, for sure. Both were interviewed.
I'm going to get the T-shirts made. Those already sound great. I'm going to go get. I'm going to go trademark it. Yeah, I mean, on Glenville's uniform down the leg it says the Ville.
Sure.
So Vel from the Ville, boy, that's pretty hard.
I'll tell you what, my friend in Virginia got
in fact,
a head coach.
I'll trade him Pooba for that, Nate. I'll go right now. Pooba for Vel from the Ville. We'll make it an even trade. We
have a strict, you don't get to choose your own nickname policy here at Bucknuts, so that won't happen. But I had a friend who started coaching a basketball team this year, and all their in Martinsville, and all their gear said the Ville. I'm like, I cannot wear that in Ohio because people will think I'm A, supporting Louisville, or B, supporting Waynesville, or C, supporting Glenville. And I can't be tied down like that. But I thought Sonny Styles and Arvel Reese pretty much did yesterday what you'd expect. Yesterday was like the interviews and the car wash, where you go and interview with every single media outlet. But they've also been interviewed by the personnel there. I had a little something. I talked to a source who's there, an NFL source, who was just raving about Sonny yesterday. And I put it in the boarding house. That was my item. Damn impressive. Like he said it twice. And he's built, and Garrick and I were kind of talking this, and Garrick, you can kind of take this and run with it. It does feel like it was the Sonny and Arvel show, kind of above all the prospects that were there yesterday. And we were discussing this before the show. Those two are kind of built for the Combine.
Yeah, Sonny, I mean, you stole my phrase, Dan. He was built for the Combine, both from a preparation and an athletic standpoint. You put Sonny in a room with general managers, scouts, whatever, and on the off-the-field interviews, he's going to come away and have them going, man, should we hire this guy to be on our coaching staff, or should we draft him? And Emeka Egbuka was the same kind of guy last year. I remember talking to a Tennessee Titans reporter when I went to the Combine last year, and they knew that they weren't going to draft Emeka first overall. That was obviously going to Cam Ward. But I did hear from a source that they left that meeting with him going, should we hire this guy to be our wide receivers coach? This guy is just damn impressive. And I think the same thing translates to Sonny, just his knowledge of the game. And then you talk about the on-field measurables. I mean, what doesn't the guy sell and then be in the top 1% in? This event was made for guys like Sonny Styles, made for guys like Arvel Reese. And you talk about just stock rising. I mean, everyone writes takeaways from the Combine pieces on Sunday in the national sphere, and I can guarantee you everyone's going to go, scouts couldn't stop raving about the athleticism and the measurables of Sonny Styles, of Arvel Reese. You're going to see that from at least 8 different national sources, because that's what this Combine is for. Side note, have either of you two guys been at the NFL Combine ever?
I've been, but I went a long time ago, so it's kind of gotten updated.
I went last year, and let me tell you how this stuff works. So it is, at least from a covering it standpoint. I can't tell you how it is from an athlete standpoint, but It's a very long day that starts at about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and it goes until about 4 or 5, depending on how long you want to watch the workouts. Sometimes you watch the whole thing. Sometimes you just watch specific players. And then the real good stuff, like where you get NFL boarding house items, comes in the I don't want to say after party because it's not really a party, but like after
bars.
Cocktails honors. Yeah, there's specific bars in the town where everybody's known to hang out in. And you'll get some NFL personnel to say some things when they've had a few beverages in themselves. And that's where a lot of your what I'm hearing pieces from NFL scouts come from. So it's our guys, Patrick Murphy and Steve Hellwagon are there. I'm sure they might have some tales to come back from, but they wouldn't do something like that, right? But it's a very interesting event that really tires you out for 4 days if you're trying to get as much information on NFL prospects as you can. But the takeaway here, guys, Arvel, Reese, and Sonny Styles were made for this, and they're going to be highlighted in a lot of national writers' pieces.
They already are. If you can go check them out. And yeah, Pat and Steve taking one for the team because Lord knows they don't like carousing late night. It's just give till it hurts. Their motto, both of them, has always been give till it hurts. So that's good that we have them there. If you watch any of the coverage, I saw Ian Rappaport say he tries to get 4 hours of sleep a night. That's the goal going in because it's really, how Mark goes to the coaches convention every year. This is kind of the convention of sorts for the sports media, all your free agency information. This is also, so the reason the combine is, the goal of the combine is not the testing and stuff like that, though that's important. It's they get all the people in one spot and they can do all the medical testing in one spot and all the interviewing in one spot. That means you get all the NFL brass in one spot. So all the free agency chatter that's going to go on and stuff is being done now. It is just a giant tampering, just ball of confusion. But yeah, I think St. Elmo's Shrimp Cocktail has gotten a national reputation for that. I'm not even sure it's that good because that's the steakhouse in town. You got to get reservations like 6 months in advance.
I can't confirm about the cocktail, but I can confirm that the restaurant itself makes fine quality steaks.
Yeah, I think
there's a reason why Steve books it every single year when we go to Indianapolis.
Because he knows the drill. And
yes.
I'm told when you're in there, you can look around and see it's basically like watching the Sunday Ticket sideline pass. Mark, your thoughts on these two dudes going out there? Now, nobody has seen more Arvel Reese and Sonny Styles tape than yourself. My guess is you knew about them when they were probably 13 years old, and I'm not even saying that in jest. Give me your thoughts on both of them. What's interesting is neither one was really going to play the spot. Like we learned of Sonny as like a free safety, kind of like that middle of the field high school player that we've seen so many times. That's just kind of put 10 yards off the line of scrimmage and out athletes everybody. Arvel, more of an interesting, let's say a winding road to where he got 3 years at Euclid, then a final year at Glenville. Didn't even fully start last year. And this year was, I think considered by many as one of the more talented guys on defense nationally. So kind of different routes to the same spot. Now I'm hearing, or what you read, that both could go in the top 7.
It's incredible. And I'm glad you said, like, the funnest part of my job is to find players with no offers and then watch them explode onto the scene. There's already a list on 24/7 and Rivals of all the players with offers, and we beat those horses to death. So I'm out there cutting the edge of recruiting. My first memory of Arvel Reese is running down on a kickoff for Euclid and absolutely annihilating the kickoff return man. That's before anyone knew who he was, before he had any offers. That was the type of the play like, hey, we need to start watching this guy. And then fast forward through the Glenville years. I remember seeing him at a Rocky River scrimmage. It was probably my first encounter with him as a Glenville player. And I think he played one series and came out furious because they wouldn't play him anymore. Typical first scrimmage type stuff. Sonny Styles, my first encounter with him was versus Central Crossing. And you're right. He's lined up over the top, playing safety. And then they get down to the goal line, and it's on the 4 or 5 yard line. And guess who shows up at defensive end? And he blows through a gap, hits the tailback 3 yards deep in the backfield, and ends the drive for Central Crossing. And it was right then where I'm like, I think I know where you're headed, buddy. Much like a Sam Hubbard. You saw Sam Hubbard standing back there at safety in high school, and it looked awkward. Yeah, athletically, he probably ran 4.6, 4.7, and he covered a lot of field, and Sonny was much like that. And like most scouts theorize, the bump down theory, safety's go to linebacker's go to defensive end's go to defensive tackle, etc. You maximize your speed and quickness. I just heard the NFL channel talking about that this morning. So I think that was why we got Sonny at linebacker, because he's a superior athlete there, and his coverage skills are off the charts. He and Arvel are like twins. They're both prototypical size, height, weight, speed. They change direction. They do all those things. I think Arvel's got a little more football player to him, a little more put his hand in the dirt. The NFL may give that a nudge of value. If you can get to the quarterback and solve that problem, you're going to go higher. Sonny seems the more of the coverage guy. If I had someone I wanted to cover a tight end or back out of the backfield, I think Sonny's the guy I'd lock it down with. And I think that's how you would differentiate those two, and it doesn't mean Arvel doesn't cover running backs, and it doesn't mean Styles can't come off the edge. It just what they've put on tape or what we got familiar with are those two things. So I hope that gives you a pretty good picture of where those guys have come from. I'm as excited as anybody to watch the draft this year, because a lot of Ohio guys, these are Ohio born and bred. I love seeing where those guys go, and it doesn't match what we think of them. And it's funny how the national media, when they see them, start saying the same things we said, a long time ago. And it's like, what? Like, don't you already know this? And you forget that other people aren't watching this podcast every Tuesday and Thursday.
They aren't the kind of nerds that we are on this particular topic, but there's definitely, that's a good point. Like national media discussing the Buckeyes sometimes is just so cursory and just, picking off the top that we know, like, it just doesn't even help. But there are a lot of outlets out there. Some of them you're more amateurish, because people have access to the all 22 now. So there are some really good guys out there doing this. I talked to Dave. We'll end it on this. I talked to Dave about this on Monday, and I'm not saying that I think Sonny will be the best player of the Ohio State guys going into the draft. But I will say this, in all the time that, and I would appreciate if the chat could contradict this or give me another name. And all the time we've done the draft, I'm not sure in terms of the way the NFL guys do things, like you're checking boxes, you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure anybody checks the boxes like Sonny does in terms of height. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've been told a guy was 6'4" and he's 6'2.5". Sonny is listed at 6'4". I think he's 6'4.5". Okay, so there's that. The physical dude, and I heard someone say this yesterday, when guys are on the podium and they don't have their pads on, he was talking about Caleb Banks of Florida. He's like, he's the biggest person I've ever seen. Like, some guys look different without their pads on. Sonny checks that box, right? So you get the physical, the complete physical. And if you've heard Sonny, tell me, you can pop on this. If you heard Sonny talk, like we've talked about this, he wore the block O. Okay. So he's also just turned 21. Okay. So he's not a key Mesidor who's coming in, with, who's paying alimony already in some spots. Then you get to this. He was an elite basketball player. Okay. Who won the state championship. Okay. Went the other year. And I'm telling you something. I watched him in the Peach Jam when All Ohio Red turned to him and was like, no one else can do anything. You bring it up. The guys on the other team, one of them was Gigi Jackson, who was a star for the Grizzlies, okay? And I keep bringing up this stat because I can't use it anymore after this. In the Peach Jam, which is the Nike basketball AAU tournament to stop traffic, it's the best of the best of the best in the United States. Sonny was a reserve forward for All Ohio Red, and in the tournament finished third in blocks. So think about that for a second. Number one was Derek Lively, who plays center for the Mavericks. He is an all-time athlete. So now you get all those boxes. That is just, now they have to think about, and we got to pay this guy millions of dollars. He checks every box. I'm not saying he's going to be the best of the group, but he's the cleanest prospect we've had I think he's the cleanest prospect we've had. Your thoughts?
I watched that interview he did at the NFL Combine, and if you had the sound down, you could almost tell his demeanor was so calm and so poised and collected, and no stutters or or, it was a very, like you said, when you say clean for all the boxes, after you get done talking to him or watching him talk, you're like, this is a guy we could have in our locker room. This is a guy after a game that can deal with a microphone in his face. And not that reflects what you do on the field, but that's part of this. And it goes to, this is probably not going to be a miss. Okay. Maybe he doesn't live up to the top 5 hype in maybe a year or season or right out of the box, but you know what? He is going to be a 10-year starter or 12-year starter, much like a Jerome Baker, someone that once he gets in the league, he is not coming off the field. It might be a dirty work type of jobs he's doing where he doesn't get the flash and the sacks and the stats, but this kid gets on the field and he doesn't come off.
By the way, one more thing I wanted to mention. He also just played for Matt Patricia. And that was one of the questions they were asking, like, oh, you've learned this and that. So it's incredible. Garrick, any follow-up or finishing comments on Sonny, since we can't just regale him after this?
Yeah, I talked about it a little bit with you guys in the off show yesterday, but the only reason I could see a team not picking him in the top, let's say, 8 picks is that he's an off-ball linebacker.
Correct.
Which is very not valued very highly in NFL terms. If you're going to pick in the top 8, they want you to be a quarterback, they want you to be an elite pass catcher, they want you to be a pass rusher, or they want you to be an offensive tackle typically. That's typically where 80% of top 8 picks come from position-wise. So I would say, Dan, if he drops all the way to your boys, Cowboys at number 12, it's probably because teams are like, well, we really, really like him. He checks every box, but I just don't know if we can justify taking an off-ball linebacker that high, even if Sonny has, like you were saying, Mark, an incredibly high floor. So I would say, you're going to hear a lot of talk of, you said what? Daniel Jeremiah put him in number 5 in his top prospects and draft eligible, but I don't think he'll go that high. But if he falls out of the top 10, it's because primarily they just don't see the positional value there.
That's fair. I did have an NFL source tell me yesterday he would not be surprised if the Giants took him. And also, I want to make this point here just to we're not forgetting about Caleb Downs. If you ask me who was going to be a better pro, I would vote for Caleb Downs. But Caleb's only 6 foot. He's probably not going to run the elite time. You know what I'm saying? Like that. And so that's even a slight box not check. What I'm saying about Sonny is there are no boxes he doesn't check. Now, whether that's not football, those are boxes. That doesn't mean he's going to be the best player. But in terms of like, Sonny is going to be the tallest, the fastest. He didn't miss a tackle until the last game of the year when he missed 17 the year before. So they're going on progress, yada, yada. By the way, Mark Fletcher, I went back and looked. I think Arvel and Sonny missed tackles on the same play with Mark Fletcher, which is reason to draft him right there. All right.
And I almost want you to do your illustration you did after the podcast yesterday, how you shine their talent through the prism and how that kind of, affects these guys. And like you're saying, it's a prism. It's not exact math. It's kind of like, and I don't know if you want to do that for us, but it was pretty.
No, what I was saying was this. I look at guys because the Ohio State guys may be a little different because we've gotten to know them over the years. And I think we know their background. We know their work ethic and such. But when you're just watching tape, you don't know how that guy, first of all, you don't know his physical. Like you don't know his injuries. Okay. So like Akeem Mesidor, for example, has bad feet. So do you want to pick a guy with bad feet? There's guys who have attitude problems. There's guys who you don't think will be able to handle the cash. There's guys who are surrounded by terrible people. So you have I see it as two, like I use with my kids, I talk about it as like pie charts. Because my advice to my kids is always stay in the fat part of the pie chart. Fat part. The little part's the DUIs and the knucklehead. You stay in the fat part. We're fat part people here. So you shine it through this prism. So you have your physical football talent. And then this prism is everything else. Now, I would say Sonny's isn't a prism. I'm not a science guy, but what reflects light the best? Glass or something? I don't know. It's not going to get distorted. There are some guys who, as talented as they are, they're never going to meet their full potential because they don't have the work ethic. Their bodies won't hold up. They haven't been coached correctly or whatever. Sonny, you can't, and then just the absolute haymaker on Sonny. His dad played for the Buckeyes, and he's got an NFL pedigree. So there's Arvel doesn't have that in his background. I'm not saying it makes a difference in the long run, but when you're predicting how a guy's going to do, like, for example, it's not like this is much anymore, but we had offensive linemen here who went to the NFL, and I had people tell me on day one they knew they couldn't play, right? It's a different sport. So it's going to be very interesting, and that's why we come back to these guys. Patricia knows this too. Day knows this. Art Smith will know this. Those guys come through Ohio State ready to rock. Both of them got up on stage yesterday and talked about how they're great edge rushers. Well, why do you think they did that? Guess who gets paid? Edge rushers. They were told to do that. It was choreographed. You know what I'm saying? Patricia told them exactly what, or whoever did, that information got to them. So, all right. That's way too much of me and not enough of the other guys. All right, let's go with Garrick. Spring visitors. We got to go get some more Sonny Styles and some more Arvel Reeses, more Vel Reeses of the world. You got a group you're focusing on, and then we were going to pull out one of them and get him on video. But Ohio State not struggling to attract talent.
Yeah, I'm working on a piece that'll be up on Bucknuts later today. Shameless self-promotion, but I'm really looking at 6 visitors that I think are crucial for Ohio State this spring, not because they're necessarily must-gets, but at least this could go a long way in determining how Ohio State has an opportunity to get these guys eventually. And I would say of the 6 that – go ahead.
Let's save our guy for last.
Yep. I'm way ahead of you. That's what I was going with.
Nothing new with that.
Of the 6 that we're going to talk about here, I would say Ohio State is in the lead group for probably 2 of them. So you can see why these guys are all making the list. And almost all of them are guys we've talked about on the show before, starting with defensive lineman Marcus Ficato out of California, reclassified from 2028 to 2027. So things are moving mightily along in his recruitment. I think Ohio State has to knock this visit out of the park to make it into official visit territory. So not really an explanation needed there. Another one that I think is really interesting is Caden Henderson, top 50 linebacker out of Florida. I think Ohio State is close to the league group. I think that stop me if you've heard this before, but Miami is going to be very competitive for this young man, especially a Florida prospect. And I know that James Laurinaitis has recruited this guy for years and has put a lot of effort into recruiting him, and he is right there, if not number 1 on top of their target board left remaining. So Caden Henderson is going to be very interesting visit to watch. The third one I highlighted here because how the visit goes is really going to kind of give us an indication on where Ohio State's leaning, and you'll understand what I'm talking about when I reveal the name. Wonderful Champ Mons. Because we talked about Brady Edmonds on the Tuesday show, first quarterback in out of anybody to earn a spot in the Elite 11 finals. Well, Wonderful Mons was near the top of Ohio State's board for quarterbacks in the 2028 class. So naturally, it makes sense to give him a look in the 27 class, even though you've already got your guy. Will Ohio State take 2 quarterbacks? Will they say, you know what, Wonderful Mons is too talented of a quarterback not to at least make a run at him? Or would they just go, you know what, we're good with Brady. We're not going to pump more resources into this position in one recruiting cycle, and we're going to keep it moving along. So I think what happens on that visit will tell us a lot. Number 4 is Braden Parks, a talented defensive lineman from my neck of the woods in Illinois. I put him on this list because, quite frankly, I think everyone's kind of touted Notre Dame as a really big contender for him. So I think this is kind of Ohio State's opportunity to make a big push if they want to for a guy of this caliber. And then we're saving the 2 that I do have Ohio State in the lead group for last, and we'll talk about the guy in the video last to make Dan a very happy man. But second to last in this list is A.J. Randall, another linebacker that we've talked about on the show before. We put him in my top 3 of recruits I'm most confident in Ohio State having the opportunity to land if they really push for him. AJ Randall right now is a 3-star in 247 Sports' rankings with 50 Division I offers. Let that sink in for a second. 50 Division I offers. 247 is putting out a rankings update for the 27 class next week. I haven't been given any spoilers, and even if I did, I wouldn't use them on this show. But I can go ahead and tell you this right now, guys. He's not going to be a 3-star recruit when we end up talking about this guy on future Bucknuts Morning 5. So I don't know how soon he wants to shut down, if he does, his recruitment, or if he's going to take it into official visit seasons. But I could see, if this visit goes really well, Ohio State trying to make a big push to, hey, shut it down. We're confident in you. You're confident in us. Let's get another linebacker in the 27 class. So that's why I put him there. And then last but certainly not least, and Mark has been salivating over this film for days now, saying, oh, my God, here we go again. I'm going to put some poor comparison on this kid and create unrealistic expectations. It is wide receiver Eric McFarland, who we talked a little bit about on Tuesday. We talked about Monson Sales, the 6'5", freak athlete out of Indiana. Eric McFarland's kind of the opposite in structure.
What a great combo, though. I'm just saying it's like perfect combo.
Yes. Eric McFarland is your prototypical slot receiver at 5'8". And I know people are going to say 5'8". Why the hell would Ohio State recruit a guy at 5'8"? Well, I'll tell you why.
5'7".
Yeah.
Okay.
So back to the Sonny Styles argument. Not 5'8.5". Go ahead.
Yes. But anyhow, why would Ohio State recruit a short wide receiver, whether he's 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", whatever it is? And I can tell you because 2 reasons. Number one, guys don't catch him. He is one of the fastest wide receivers in the country. He is I've seen him multiple times at Ohio State recruiting camps, and they play mostly zone coverage at these things, and sometimes man. And regardless of what coverage guys are playing, they don't catch him. He's a Malachi Toney type prospect where you get the ball in his hands, make guys miss, and just get him the ball and have him create 70 yards after the catch. He is that talented, that dynamic of a wide receiver. I still think that Ohio State is going to do everything it can to pair Jameer Brown with another really talented wide receiver in the 2027 recruiting class, whether it's a Monson Sales, whether it's an Eric McFarland. I think personally, I think the prospects of landing McFarland are better than landing Sales right now. So that'll create some interesting, how do you use both of these guys? Do you put Brown outside? Do you put McFarland in the slot? Because McFarland can probably only play the slot in collegiately, where Brown could.
Very Legend Bay-like, and I don't want to.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, so step on you there, but.
And we'll give this to Mark here in a sec. But what makes this so interesting, Garrick, I think we've talked about this. As good as Ohio State has been, and as many offensive players as they've developed, high-level NFL guys, I'm not sure they have, and you please tell me if I'm wrong, like this past year, great deep. We were good in the screen, but that middle of the field guy, you get the ball who just makes everyone go into immediate fear mode. The Malachi Toney example is literally perfect because the impact he had on Miami. And what I noticed about Malachi Toney, even in video about him when he was like 10 years old, he's a little jack dude. He's not skinny. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's an important part of the description you made of McFarland is, yeah, he's a little guy, but he's not slight. And they have not had that. I mean, I can't think of anybody going back. I mean, they kind of used Paris Campbell that way. He's more of a long strider. But in terms of a guy who, like Paris once led the team in receptions, and he's doesn't even have great hands, but he was taking that little flip forward pass. It looks like a handoff. This is a way for them to diversify their offense. And like Mark said, and Garrick had told you, I think there's guys on the roster now who are like that. They're just haven't seen them yet, and that being Legend Bay. All right, Mark, if we didn't have video for this, we'd be overselling everything. Look at this, RJ Babka, Cinnamon Babka, not sold on any receiver at 5'7". Sorry, not buying it. We've seen in the past what some of these pint-sized players can do. Now, this is not a setup, but we're going to say that, and now you're going to see the video, and Babka is going to turn into a chocolate Babka. All right, here we go.
Okay, so I finally get my chance to talk here. Let me go back a little bit. Dan sends me the name. I go to the page, and I was a little confused. It was 5'7", 177, and he wasn't in the class of I expected, so I thought I had the wrong player. And I texted Dan, "Are you sure we have the right player?" And I said to myself, well, I can get my answer to that question if I just watch the video. I'll know. So before Dan could really get back to me, I was like, "Don't worry, I got the right."
Yeah, right.
Okay, like
there cannot be two Eric McFarlands that could do this on Earth.
Yeah, and if there is a kid that I'm watching the wrong video, we need to make this the right video, because this kid can absolutely scoot. Before the podcast started, or as I started to do comps for him, I said, "Mark, do not compare this kid to Tyreek Hill or anything hyperbolic like that. You're just going to create too much hype." He just ran by a guy and beat him by 5 yards within 30 yards. But before we could get on the show today, Dan comes on the show, or our pre-thing, and says, "Is this the next Tyreek Hill?"
To be fair, I got that from a source who may also be on the show.
Yep. And I don't think he's as jittery. That's the one thing. But I do think he fits the diminutive guy. Like this play right here, watch how much traffic he fights through. I mean, he just pulls guys and the effort and all that stuff. And then there's the crowd, and he just leaves it behind. I mean, he's smooth. He's explosive. A lot of names popped in my head when I was watching this guy play. But you're right. Nothing in Ohio State history really says he's the next Paris Campbell. He's the next Terry McLaurin, Joey Galloway, Ted Ginn Jr., Curtis Samuel, Paris Campbell. He doesn't fit those guys from size things, but then you're like, is he a Roscoe Parrish? Is he Santonio Holmes? Is he Devin Hester? And those are all Florida guys, and I see him in Florida here. But the way he just ran by everybody there and beat him by 10 yards, are you kidding me?
I'll tell you who he reminds me of. Reginald Bush.
Reggie, there you go. I mean, these are some great comparisons, but Reggie Bush wasn't 5'7", 5'8". So you still go back to he's doing
5'9",
things.
5'10".
Yeah, we're going to stretch him out here. We'll put him on the rack. But, I mean, guys can't even touch him. They're diving and looking like fools. He just split two guys right there. And I've never seen so many bubble screens go to the house like this in a row, where you have to cut through, like you're saying, the whole field to get there, or people have angles over the top supposedly, and you're busting them. What a great looking player that I was totally surprised by. And here's another thing, guys. If you know me, and I'm not patting myself on the back here, when I watch these films, I don't look at any rankings, anybody else's stars, stats, anything. The film is what I make my money on, watching film and seeing if that speaks to me. And this speaks to you. This is the type of film you sit down and go, okay, forget the size, coach, throw it out. We can't take 5 receivers like this and build a room like this, because then we'll never be able to block anybody on rundowns, because that's really what this is about. In that slot guy, you need to be able to block him with some physicality. And if that's why you like that big slot in there. But again, he might be feisty enough to put a body on somebody long enough, and you can get away with him enough. But you can't take a whole room of these guys. And that's kind of like we said, we have one guy, Monsoon Sales or Jeremiah Smith or Chris Henry. We got that role. We need this role. And if it's Legend Bay and McFarland and guys like this, now you're starting to build a complete receiver room.
I just had a vision of Legend Bay and Eric McFarland on the field at the same time, and you run double bubble, and you're just like, you choose. Yep. You can't be right. But yeah, the reason I said Reggie Bush is I thought Bush was the first guy who, remember the fake reverse? That was like part of their offense, where he's just almost like Steph Curry in basketball. You see him move across the field, and you just see this magnetic pull of everybody going with them to align themselves so they don't get caught over the top. And then it leaves such a gap on the other side that it's incredible. All right. I'll tell you what, it's good to be a Buckeye fan. We come on here every week and talk about guys crushing the combine, and then the greatest players in the United States who might come here again. And it's really enjoyable. And I get to hang out with these dudes, which is fun too. Everyone have a good day. Have a good one, Nutters.